Well, it's still legal.
The Cary Harrison Files.
And it is Cary Harrison. Welcome back. As if we went anywhere, we didn't. Don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter at caryharrison.com. caryharrison.com. There you're going to get a transcript of the entire show, plus access to clips and stuff we simply cannot do or say on the radio. And that's our free newsletter at caryharrison.com. Plus, as you know, we're live streaming right now on YouTube. You can simply Google Cary Harrison YouTube and subscribe so we can stay connected when you show up at your destination. Then you switch over to the stream on your phone at the Cary Harrison YouTube channel, which you can also easily find at kpfk.net. That's kpfk.net. Now, you'd think that a man with a thirst for foreign lands, degrees from London's finest institutions, would have the good sense to find a tropical island and hide out there. But reporters are reporters, and showing up is part of their hardwiring. He's reported from the beating heart of London, the sun-soaked charm of Morocco, and the synthetic dreamland here in Hollywood, where reality is a suggestion and history gets rewritten with better lighting. Similar to many governments these days. Over the years, I've gotten to know him very well, meeting first at Sundance and having seen his world in Germany, ranging from coaching, media training, and helping people professionally as a therapist. And now it seems German history doesn't just repeat. It occasionally tries to form a coalition government. And it seems to have a first cousin in Washington, D.C., with the same goals and aspirations. In Frankfurt, Germany is Jan Tüssing with AfD Germany Public Radio. Because buckle up, this is going to be worth your time. Jan Tüssing, I want to welcome you to the show.
Hello, Harrison. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. We did this actually in 2016 when the previous administration was about to emerge, and you gave us the most extraordinary history lesson about what happened 80 years ago. We all thought it was very political. It turns out, you pointed out, it was just a giant bank robbery. And here we are in the U.S. watching them loot Fort Knox and take all the money and just funnel it off into thin air and all the rest of it. And we're gobsmacked at what's unfolding here in the United States, but we're not alone. Germany's just gone ahead and reminded us all that bad ideas never really die. They just get better branding over time. What do you see, with my sarcasm set aside, as the playbook with a new German government that feels eerily similar to that of 80 years ago?
Yes. When we talked last in 2016, I think I was very worried for the US when Trump got into power. And I couldn't think of a German extreme right wing being the second largest political party in the German government right now. We had elections just a couple of days ago. And the Alternative for Germany, that's what the fascists call themselves in Germany, have gained 20%. They've doubled their votes. And since then, there's a big upheaval. Because mainly in Eastern Germany, in the former Democratic Republic of Germany, there is a huge vote there. The fascists, I would call them, the Alternative for Germany, they went first. So they are now a big power in Germany. And right now, we're in the middle of having a new administration in the next couple of weeks. And we don't know what's the outcome.
Whether it's the U.S. or Europe, people always act shocked when authoritarianism creeps back in as if it didn't leave the door cracked open. What's the biggest lie we tell ourselves about democracy's durability?
Well, there's a couple of lies. And interestingly, I talked to a historian at the Frankfurt University who is compiling he's editing all Hitler's speeches. There are 222. Hitler's speeches, oral and written. And this is the first time actually since the 60s that all these speeches are recompiled, and they show how Hitler and his propaganda minister Goebbels succeeded in changing the tone and changing their radical ideas from 1933 when they got into power till 1939 when they declared war on Poland. And interestingly, the similarities, what's happening today in Germany is that there's a lot of propaganda going on with the Alternative for Germany, the German fascists, undermining democratic institutions. We hear about fake news. We hear about corrupt politicians, about courts that don't work well. And all this has been heard 80 years ago when the fascists in Germany in the 1930s tried to convince the German population that they couldn't trust the state. And this is repeating now with the German fascists, where they accuse Germany of having corrupt politicians, of fake news, like the news that I work for, public radio, which is obviously not funded by a state, but it's constituencies that actually have to give money. So there are similarities, and when you look at what happened in the 80 years ago and what you look at what's happening now, there are some eerie parallels.
We're talking right now to ARD German Public Radio's Jan Tussing, from correspondent in London to managing their foreign studios in Africa and Los Angeles. He's covered global affairs, film, and has an expertise in the complexities of the world in which we live. Fluent in French, German, and English, and probably 17 other languages. He's expanded his focus to community life, working also as a personal coach, a media trainer, and a therapist, taking your radio skill sets and expanding them out and putting out the fires of people's mental terror, as it were. Let's talk for a second, Jan, about Germany, of all places. It should know better, right? Or is knowing better just another historical myth?
You know, Harrison, I'd like to paint a little picture of what's going on in Germany right now. There have been protests in the streets in mainly the big cities, Berlin, Hamburg, Munich, Frankfurt, of hundreds and thousands of people going to the streets protesting against what they call the blue wave. That's blue is the color for the fascists right now, and the Alternative for Germany. And very many people are concerned because there have been more and more radical talks of these extreme right-wing politicians. And despite all the protests in the streets, there is a large population that votes for extreme right wings. And right now, there is a rising insecurity of what's going on in the country. And with the international complexity of having a war in Europe, having Putin, who's leading a hybrid war against Western Europe, about Trump and J.D. Vance, who just a couple of days ago at the Security Summit in Munich basically declared that the U.S. is no longer willing to be an ally with Germany and Europe. There's a huge upheaval, and everybody I talk to is very concerned. There's even talk now about, does Germany and Europe need a nuclear shield to protect itself, because the former ally, the US, is no longer there. And there seems to be a coalition between Trump and Putin. What does that mean for Germany, and what does that mean for Western Europe? That's a question that gives so much concern, and basically we don't know. It's very uncertain right now.
We had 4 months ago, this sort of didn't exist, not the way that it does now. So it is a contrived, invented, man-made crisis that really didn't exist even a year ago. Sure, we had some people come over the border, but they picked the avocados and they're generally well-liked. That's about it, really. The amount of fentanyl coming from Canada was just released at a whole 40 pounds in a year, which is next to nothing. So it's just contrived, make-believe crisis. But when it's repeated and repeated and repeated, and we learned that from Joseph Goebbels, you repeat it enough, it becomes a fact, and it terrifies people. And now they are forced to react. They don't know what to do. So the leader comes out and tells them, here's what we're going to do about it. And here we are today. I mean, it's amazing. And reporting on it, you in Germany with this government you have, it's difficult for me to know, can I even say this? Can I even be doing this interview that you and I are doing? Is there going to be a problem? Do you feel the same pressures where you live in Germany?
No, we're far from it right now. But of course, there is pressure. And what I do see is a division, a new division between East and West Germany, where in East Germany, where the fascists are really on the rise. And just to paint a picture of what's going on in the streets, there's not a single day where extreme right-wing hooligans in swastika shirts are in little villages and protesting and showing their muscles, intimidating people in the streets. And there's a picture of Bernd Höcke, who is he is a fascist, and he actually is the leader of the Alternative for Germany. He is so radical, and he actually has he's the, if you will, the political arm of what is behind this party, which is, we cannot talk about paramilitary troops, but there are a lot of people that are armed and that are really intimidating public space, mainly in Eastern Germany. And if you go to Saxony in the east, or in northeast Brandenburg, where there's so many hate crimes against minorities of all ways, against people of color, against the queer population, the rise and the surge of hate crimes has increased, I think, mainly because people like Höcke and his likes are more and more radical. And well, now you show a picture of Alice Weidel, who's the head of the party. She is, weirdly enough, a woman. When you listen to her, she really sounds like Goebbels. She is full of hatred. And I have to say, when I see her, it's like a red flag for me. But mainly, when you look at Eastern Germany, people are really aware of this militant race, and you have to watch out what you wear, what you look like. And there are some warnings that people of color shouldn't be running around the streets because hate crimes are rising in the east of Germany. That's very worrisome.
You point out, Jan Tussing, that we just put up an image, and that's because we are streaming on YouTube, which you can just Google Cary Harrison YouTube or go to kpfk.net, and you'll be able to see the video version and see Jan Tussing, who is in Germany right now, as we talk about the similarities of what's going on here, what's going on there, different techniques, different shapes and flavors. We now have a move from our administration here in the U.S. to start muting colors. In other words, no bright yellows, no bright colors, no rainbow flag type colors, but just muted grays, muted browns, muted blacks. And all of this is to, once again, pull, I suppose, to dull the imagination and dull the edges of people's hopefulness. We saw this in the Germany of World War II. Let's talk a little bit about this exploration that's being done, pulling the Hitler speeches. What's the purpose of seeing those things organized this way now?
Well, I think there's a strategy. And when you look at what the Alternative for Germany, the fascist party, is doing, they're actually very strong on TikTok. And among young people, we talk about the people between 18 and 25, are the biggest voters for the fascist party. And why is that? That's because the AfD is using TikTok and the very short 30 seconds, 40 seconds clip to propagate hatred. And it's very easy to manipulate people on social media. So what you see is that with undermining democratic institutions, and there's talk about fake news all the time, and you know this from the US, where Donald Trump is accusing traditional newspapers of putting out fake news. Of course, this is wrong. And if you keep undermining the credibility of democratic institutions, there comes a time when you start doubting and you start disbelieving. And this is what's happening. It's a strategy where people are getting very doubtful about politicians, our courts, our democratic states. And that's a strategy that the fascists in Germany actually copy from Hitler Germany of the 30s and the propaganda ministry of Joseph Goebbels, where if you undermine democratic institutions long enough, you have a population that doesn't know who to trust. And I think the key word is trust. Who do you trust? And usually you could trust independent newspapers. You could trust independent courts. But right now, people pretend that courts and newspapers are not independent anymore, and you can't trust them. And this leads to disarray. This leads to people doubting whether the politicians that we have in place who are democratically elected are the right ones. And I fear that Germany is going the same direction as the US is. And when you look at what Donald Trump is doing in the past couple of weeks that he's in office, I don't want to know what's going on in the future, because there are lots of similarities that worry me.
Just for your information, Jan Tussing, I have a couple of students here from the University of South Florida who are wagging their tails like spaniels at the dendrites and synapses firing so brilliantly in your head as you're able to lay out in so many simple sentences exactly what we're experiencing, and don't have a way to describe it because we have no history in the US of this and no touch point and no reference to it. And you've just really crystallized this so beautifully for us. We're talking right now to ARD German Public Radio's Jan Tussing, from correspondent in London to managing their foreign studios in Africa and Los Angeles. He's covered global affairs, film, also has an expertise in the complexities, as you're hearing, of the world in which we live. He's fluent in French, German, English, who knows what else, expanded his focus into community life, working also as a personal coach, a media trainer, and therapist, and is with us today live in Germany. And we're talking about the similarities of us, the first cousins, and really after World War II, which we the Allies won, we still have military bases in Germany. So that offers another layer of weirdness. Germany does not have military bases in the US, but we have them there. And President Trump is smoking peace pipes with the Russian leader who participated in the Great Berlin Wall, dividing Germany into the former Soviet Union version of Germany. And here it looks like it's all coming back. How do you guys see the Russian part playing out if Vladimir Putin is handed Ukraine? In return, Donald Trump and his friends get to make $1 trillion off of mineral rights, oil, precious metals, all the rest of it. And the people of Ukraine get to probably plow the fields, grow the food, and hand it all away. I mean, it's just Orwellian and nightmarish.
Yes, you put it well. I think there's a paradigm shift. And what we see is that the Western allies, the NATO parties, the US and the Western European countries, there's a split. There's a huge divide. And it seems that the balance of power has shifted. First, it was bipolar, then it was multipolar, and now it seems that there are some imperialists, neo-imperialists in the persona of Putin, Trump, who wants to buy Greenland and, buy other Panama canals, and Canada, who knows what else, that there are imperialist policies that are actually dividing up the world, and Europe is in the middle of it. But the European states are very weak right now because they have been relying militarily, but also politically, on the US as being their ally. And this is now breaking away. And if you look at Germany, who is now having a shift in administration, France, who is going to vote in a year or two, which is very weak. All the governments are not very stable. And you have millions of refugees of the Ukraine in Poland, in Germany, in other European countries, with Russia undermining the system, if you will, and Russia having a hybrid war, economically, information war, deploying their spies all over Western Europe. There is now this sense of urgency that there has to be a wake-up call for European, um, political leaders to find a solution to answer imperialists like Donald Trump and Putin. And with China on the rise, and we all know China is not a democratic state either, what is going to happen to the democratic countries that are left?
I hate to predict. I hate to be right if I predict. So let's just assume I'm wrong. I see a new axis. We were once the allies, but a new axis of China, the United States, and Russia splitting Earth into three parts. And it's really up to us to stop that. It's up to us here in the United States to tell Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries and others, no, sitting on the sidelines and watching and showing you've got great table manners does not make fascists like you, approve of you, and rethink their proposition. In other words, it just gives them permission to move forward. You guys are showing up by the hundreds of thousands on the streets. You know, we tweet, we post a meme on Facebook. We are flooding our Congress with more email and phone calls than they've ever seen, but they still haven't quite taken it seriously. But I think this is the inflection point for the people of Earth. We really get serious and stand up for what we believe in, or we really run the risk of losing it. And it feels like you feel the same way where you are.
I'd like to raise another point, and that is that the US, in persona of Trump, J.D. Vance, and Elon Musk, is breaking the rule of law and infringing of other sovereign countries, like Germany, for example. When we had the election campaign a couple of weeks ago, Elon Musk spoke with Alice Weidel, which is the head of the Alternative for Germany, the fascist in Germany, and actually supported her, telling her that he would vote for her. And we see that more and more American politicians, Silicon Valley tycoons, are interfering in European politics. Not only do they give money, a lot of money to support them, but also now they're giving some political input. And Alice Weidel, when she won 20% of the German vote, congratulated Elon Musk in person. And Elon Musk congratulated her, saying that what a great success AfD has had. So what we see is now that you have billionaires and politicians, the most powerful people on the planet, interfering within politics of democratic states. And that's something very new we haven't seen before. And what is going to happen if Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and who else, other billionaires, are actually taking part in European politics and telling the president Macron in France what to do, and telling the new chancellor in Germany that he should do this or do that, and pressurizing by weighing their power within the fascists. It's unheard of, it's absurd, and it looks like a 1984 from Orwell, the bad is the new good, or I don't know. It's
and war
crazy.
Is peace. Yes.
Yes.
Well, I hope we can get you back on again soon. You are so capable at making the most twisted stuff explainable to us, because you also have studied the history of your own country where this actually did happen. It's just unfolding for us. We have no historical reference except your country, but you're also brilliant, so it makes it a lot easier. We've been talking to ARD German Public Radio's Jan Tussing, from correspondent in London to managing their foreign studios in Africa and Los Angeles, covering global affairs, film, expertise in the complexities of the world in which we live, fluent in multiple languages, and now expanding his focus to community life, which is smart, get out. Working also as a personal coach, media trainer, and a therapist. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jan Tussing.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Files. let's pause for a second and give some love to KPFK.
This is the Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.